was some good singing, right? If you're not sure why people go to church, y'all just got taken to church. But I was sitting back here listening to y'all sing, and y'all were worshiping really good. I mean, that's on that song, It's Your Breath in My Lungs. Y'all were like, it's your breath. I could feel it. Y'all were excited. 9:30 was just like, it's your breath in my lungs. 11 o'clock is always the best. Yeah. Y'all are too easy. This is going to go easy. I like this part of the message, like when I first get up and start to talk, because I know that the battle is already won, right? The hard part's already over. You woke up this morning, you set your alarm went off, you got up, you put pants on, you brushed your teeth, you got in your car, you drove here, and you're here. That's like 98.67% of the battle. You're here, you made it. And I'm so grateful to be with you. My name is Trent Smith. For those of you that don't know me, I lead our No Walls worship service out at the distillery. We meet there first and third Sundays of the month. And it's been really, really fun. Here's an interesting thing is like, I didn't really know what it was 2 years ago when we started. I didn't know what I was getting into. And I don't know that I really know what it is, but there's some ideas that are around No Walls worship that I'm really excited about. One of the ideas is that Jesus didn't have a mortgage. Right? Do y'all understand that? Like, Jesus didn't have a mortgage. Jesus didn't get a loan and build a church and then tell everybody to come to him. He went to other people's sacred spaces, whether it was a fish camp or the side of a mountain or next to the lake or in somebody else's synagogue, and that's where he took the good news to people. I'm excited about that idea. I'm also excited that church can be really simple, right? It's me and it's John, and we do words and music, and we don't take roll, and we don't like count attendance. I mean, we do count attendance. I lied. We count numbers, but we don't have like a membership per se. But here's what I tell folks there is, here's the goal, right? The goal is that when you walk out of here today, you'll be a little bit more encouraged than when you walked in. And y'all, if you don't feel that, if you don't walk out of here feeling encouraged, then that's on me, right? Nothing's wrong with you. That's 100% on me. I will take it. And then here's what I also know is that there are people who have been hurt by church, right? There are people who have ideas about what it means to go to a church, or I bet you know somebody that would not feel comfortable coming inside these walls to search, to find community, to whatever. And so why don't we go outside of these walls and try to bring a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of inspiration out in the community? And that's what we're all about. It's been really fun to see the types of people that come to No Walls. Last time we met, we had these girls that work together as teachers up in the Dallas area, and they get together in Austin for a girls' trip. And they just decided they wanted to come to the distillery because we were holding worship service. She said, it sounded like a cool and funky thing to go do in Austin. I'm like, right on. And they said they had a good time, right? And then we had this other woman who came, and she was having a real hard time, and we were able to plug her in to some resources here at the church, and she got some medical attention that she didn't know she even needed, and literally, because of this connection, it saved her life. And so it's the best thing I get to do. Besides being a husband and a father, it's the best thing that I get to do. And it's not lost on me that none of it's possible without the support, the love, and the prayer, and the connection with this church. So I want to thank y'all for that. Here's what I've been talking about a lot at No Walls. I talk a lot about the parables. I've gone through a bunch of them, and I'm not done. I'm going to keep going through them. But here's my idea, is that if you really want to understand Jesus, you probably understand the stories that he told. And so today I want to talk to you about one of the stories that Jesus told. But will y'all join me in prayer? God, you are so good. You are so good. I woke up this morning with breath in my lungs. I woke up with muscles and bones and fibers and all kinds of stuff that were working. And Lord, I woke up with a brain that understands and can make sense of the world around me. And what a beautiful, beautiful life. God, I want to thank you for the places like this, places here in the community, everywhere, where we can come together and just experience a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of love, a little bit of community that'll keep us going throughout the rest of our week. There are things that matter in this world, and we can sometimes get really distracted by all the things that don't. And we can get our ideas turned upside down. God, I want to thank you for every single person, every single soul that is here. I want to thank you for their gifts. Thank you that they came, and I want to thank you and praise you for this sacred and divine moment. God, we expect you to be here, right? We expect that your presence will be felt, that you'll be whispering in our ears, that we will feel you moving in the room. And God, we expect that because we know you are already here before we asked. God, we expect you to be here because we know you are, and you will walk out with us, and you will be in our cars, and you will be with us tonight when we take a bath. Lastly, God, I want to pray that you would get me out of the way. I surrender this moment to you. May it be bigger, more important than any kind of words that I could ever put together, Lord. I give these words and I give this moment to you, God. I surrender. Lord, we pray all these things in your Son's precious name. We call him Jesus. Amen. Here's what I think some of you know about me is that I work at the bank. I worked at the bank for some time. It's been 18 years. And somewhere in the middle of that 18 years, I was a corporate trainer. I did it for about 3 years. I used to teach this class called Managing and Coaching for Premier Performance. It was a really cool class, actually. I'm being silly. But it was 3 days, 3 days of class, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And here's what you need to know. 3 days of me is even too much me for me, okay? By like day 2, people were like, oh, can we move on to the next facilitator? But I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this corporate training, and they started asking me to do custom training. So there would be a need in the market, something people needed to learn, and we wouldn't have any curriculum on it, and they'd say, Trent, go write it, and then I want you to go around and teach it to other people. And so I did. That was a cool experience. On one such occasion, I found myself in Lubbock, Texas. I had never been to Lubbock before. There was a lot of things new about this experience. I was suddenly training people that were at a little bit of a level higher than what I was used to. It was new content, new people, new city, new. And so I was feeling, going into it, a little bit nervous about the experience. But I got up, I'm doing my class, I was well prepared, and I thought things were going pretty good. I was laying it down, right? But there was a woman, back where Tricia is, in the back left, who was just throwing all kinds of hate at me. It was weird, right? So you do this thing they teach you when you're facilitating and trying to get participation. You ask questions, you encourage people, you enhance people's self-esteem just to get everybody talking. And so this side of the room was doing awesome. They were like, blah, 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 talk. Up here front, talk. But back here, where hateful Tricia was, she was giving me nothing, y'all. Like, I'm asking questions, I'm doing everything, and I'm like, what do you think? Easy questions, like maybe she'll say something, and Tricia's nothing. And not only was she not participating, like she wouldn't get into groups, and she's like whispering to people at the side, and she's writing all this stuff on, like she's doing other work while she's supposed to be listening to me. And y'all, I've been doing this for a while, and as much as I hated it, I found myself getting really nervous, right? It was jacking with all of my style, and it was doing that thing like where you wouldn't have known I was nervous except for that I had papers in my hands and they were like, and so I start rushing through my slides, I start skipping over content, I start going, yeah, and we're getting done, because all I want to do is just get done with this presentation and sit down. So I get done, And I'm like, "Bleh." And my friend, her name is Jana, she was the consultant who brought me into Lubbock to do this class, and she sits down with me afterwards and goes, "Hey, how did you think it went?" And I'm like, fine, it was great. Like, well, except there was this one woman back left, and I got kind of ugly, right? I wasn't explaining it the way I'm explaining it now. It's like, she must be a bad person and a bad manager, and how did you even hire her? And I was doing being really defensive stuff. And then my friend Jana, she looks at me with this look that can only be described as like one part kindness, one part hesitancy, one part pity. She goes, "Oh, Trent, that's Barbara. Barbara lives in a little tiny town called Post, and she's deathly shy, and she has a phobia of speaking in public, and she would have loved to have participated. And I wish you could see her notebook, because it is filled with pages of your words. She was literally writing down almost everything that you said. And she wanted desperately to come and say to you, thank you for being in Lubbock." You say, Trent, people from the corporate office don't come to Lubbock, Texas, and just having you here was a giant deal. And she was too shy to even just come say thanks for that one-on-one. I'm a jerk. But now I want to tell you a story that Jesus told. And you're going to recognize this story, I think. And I've heard it taught a bunch of different ways. I've heard it taught the way Doug taught it this morning about the power of using your gifts and how important that is. I've heard it taught as a lesson on God's judgment, like how God judges us and how we'll ultimately be held to account on Judgment Day. And I've even heard it taught as like evidence of the prosperity gospel. Do y'all know what the prosperity gospel is? It's like, if you love Jesus enough, you will be wealthy and pretty. That's the prosperity gospel in a nutshell. But here's what I want to say. I don't know that any of those teachings are wrong or that it's not valid, but there's just this one thread, there's this one part in this story that Jesus told that was just screaming at me like, this is the one to tell. And so that's what I want to share with you. We're going to be in Matthew. This is going to be chapter 25. I'm going to read you through 14 through 27. And then I'm going to be in the Good News translation, Here we go. This is called the parable of the three servants. Verse 14, at that time, the kingdom of heaven is going to be like this. And this is what Jesus did all the time in these parables. He's always trying to explain to people what heaven would be like, what the kingdom of heaven is like, what God is like. At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like this. Once there was a man who was about to leave home on a trip. And so he called his servants and he put them in charge of his property. He gave to each one according to his ability. To one, he gave 5,000 gold coins. To another, he gave 2,000 gold coins. And to another one, he gave 1,000 gold coins. And then he left on his trip. The first servant who had received the 5,000 coins, he went at once. He invested the money, and he earned another 5,000. In the same way, the servant who received the 2,000 coins earned another 2,000. But the servant who had received 1,000 gold coins, he went off, he dug a hole in the ground, and he buried his master's money. Verse 19, after a long time, the master of those servants came back, and he wanted to settle accounts with them. The servant who had received the 5,000 coins came in, and he handed over the other 5,000. He said, you gave me 5,000 coins, sir. He said, look, exclamation point. Here are another 5,000 that I have earned. Well done, you good and faithful servant, exclamation point. You have been faithful in managing small amounts, so I'm going to put you in charge of large amounts. Come in and share with me in my happiness and joy, exclamation point. Then the servant who had been given 2,000 coins came in and said, you, sir, gave me 2,000 coins. Look, exclamation. Here are another 2,000 that I have earned. Well done, you good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in managing small amounts, so I will put you in charge of large amounts. Come in and share in my joy and happiness!" Exclamation point. Then the servant who had received 1,000 coins, he came in and he said, "Sir, I know you are a hard man. You reap harvests where you did not plant, and you gather crops where you did not scatter seed. I was afraid, and so I went off and I hid your money in the ground." The master says, "You knew, did you, that I reap harvests where I did not plant, and you knew that I gather crops where I did not scatter seed? Well then, you should have just deposited my money in the bank, and I would have received it all back with interest." This is the word of God for the people of God. Reader's Digest version, 3 dudes, all given money and an opportunity from the master. 2 of them did a good job. 1 of them screwed up. And here's for you type A folks, here's what we want to get to. We want to get to what was the mistake. What was the core screw up? But at first I want you to see a couple things. There's banking in this story. I love this story. There's banking in this story. Did you catch that part at the end where the master's like, "You could have just put the money in the bank and it would earn interest." And y'all, if y'all have any gold coins laying around, I have a good new money interest rate on CDs over at the bank. And anyway, but there's banking in this story, and I want you to see that not because it's exciting to me. I want you to see it because it's an evidence of the absurdity of this story. Okay? Here's what I think we forget. Jesus was a radical, right? They didn't put this guy on a tree. They didn't beat him in public. They didn't pay silver coins to have this guy drug into the courts because he was saying nice and fluffy, fuzzy things. They did this because they were scared about what he was saying. They did this because the things that he was saying were getting people angry and making them upset. And so there's banking in this story, and the radical, absurd thing that Jesus is showing us right away that people would have noticed, the master goes out of town and gives his servants all the property. The master goes out of town and says, "Here is all my wealth, it's yours. You're going to be in charge." The master is saying to the servants, "I'm not in this alone. I want to be in business with you. I want to be your partner. I trust you. We can do a whole lot more together than I can do on my own. I'm going to go on this trip. You guys go do good with my wealth." It's absurd that the master would give away everything that he has and place it in the hands of his servants. Second thing I want you to see, it's an absurd proposition, it's an absurd premise. It's also an absurd amount of money. In the version that I read, the Good News Translation, it calls it gold coins, 5,000 gold coins, 2,000 gold coins, 1,000 gold coins. In other translations, they're called talents. This is the parable of the talents. And talents is like a banking term. It was a market term. It was roughly around 75 pounds of measurement. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this. Like scholars have argued and they've come up with different ways to put value to these coins that the servants had. But if we do the simple one, and all of them agree it's an absurd amount of money, if we just took coins at today's value, at the ounces we think that these were, the 1,000 gold coins was like $1.3 million. The 5,000 gold coins was something like $7+ million. Y'all hear this? The last servant buried $1.3 million in the ground. Y'all, I have a really good new money rate on CDs, and had we just put that $1.3 million in the bank at a very conservative interest rate, I'm talking we're at like 1.2%, that's over $1,000 a month just in interest. Can you imagine what we could do with $1,000 a month? I'm getting excited. But here's what I want you to see. That wasn't the mistake. As absurd as it was to bury $1.3 million in the ground, that wasn't the core mistake. Now, I want us to back up, right? I want us to back up, and I want us to see this servant approaching the master. I want us to see that he's back and he's watching these other two who had done good work. They had taken the gold coins. They had doubled the money. They're giving it to the master, and the master says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into my happiness and joy." And then the servant approaches the master, and I think he approached him nervously, embarrassed. And he says, "Master, when I think about you, when I picture who you are, your essence, I see a hard man. I see a man who harvests where he doesn't reap. We were the ones doing the work. I see someone who picks up harvest where he didn't plant." He says, "I see a thief. I thought you were cruel." And the master's response just blows me away, because his response is not what your response would have been. It's not what your response would have been. It's not what my response would have been. My first response is, "You buried $1.3 million in the ground?" The master's response was, "You thought I was a hard man?" I hope you hear and feel the master's heartbreaking. You thought I sow where I did not scatter seeds? You thought I harvested where I did not plant? You thought I'm not invested in this? Do you not see the gift that I've given you? Do you not see how desperately I want to be in partnership with you? Do you not understand how much I have at stake? You thought I was cruel. You thought I was cruel. And y'all, that's to me the heartbeat, the sun at which the whole universe of this story revolves, is you thought I was cruel. You thought I was cruel. Because y'all, here's what I know. I know that if you go out this week, if you go out this afternoon and you go out looking for ugliness, you're going to find it. If you go out into this world this week, this afternoon, if you go out looking for kindness and grace and peace and understanding, you're going to find that too. So I believe that this story, in some ways, it's about a mindset, right? A fundamental mindset that we have. Is the master kind, or is the master cruel? Is the master kind, or is the master cruel? Kind or cruel? So as much as it's about mindset, I also think it's about shifting our perspectives. I was, my buddy, John Kent, y'all know John, he's the one who does music for No Walls, and you've seen him play, and if you've seen him play, you know this man is gifted beyond measure, and the Holy Spirit shows up every time he puts his fingers on the guitar, and it's been a pleasure and honor to work with him. He's a juicer. He does these juice cleanses, right? He'll do 21-day, 30-day cleanses where all he's doing is juice, right? John Knows Juice is the headline. And so he calls me one day, kind of out of nowhere. I'm like, "What's up?" And he goes, "Dude, I got to tell you about this juicer," right? And so, you know those juicers that have the lever where you push the cut lemon in, you squeeze it, and the juice comes out? He said, "Dude, 38, 39 years old, I've been putting a lemon in upside down my whole life. Dude, I turned that lemon the other way, so much more juice." He was so fired up. And that's what I'm talking about, y'all. I know this sounds silly, Simple shifts in mindset. Is the master kind or is the master cruel? We've got to get that lemon turned the right way, and the results are amazing. Remember Barbara? Everybody always gets weirded out when I do this to people. Isolate. I just wanted to sit in church and listen to God, not be pulled out. Anyway. But I learned from Barbara. I don't know that I learned right away. But what I learned from Barbara is that anytime I saw somebody who looked like they weren't like dialed in or engaged with whatever I was teaching, I learned to just pull them aside and ask. I remember this is maybe a year later, I was doing a session and there was this guy who was on his phone, his BlackBerry, and doing this, and he wasn't talking a lot. And I pulled him aside after one of the breaks and I said, "Hey man, just tell me about you. Get to know you." And he goes, "Man, I'm sorry I haven't been talking much." He had worked for a different bank, right? He'd been a manager there for a long time, super successful, but we were using all this new terminology and it was flying over his head, and he was also like, "This is a little remedial for me." And I said to him, "Brother, like, forget the terminology, forget what the language is supposed to be. You have worlds of experience that we could all benefit from. I would love to hear you just riff on how you lead people." And he did. And the whole atmosphere, the whole energy in the room changed after that from a simple shift. And again, I know this sounds silly. We're talking about lemon juicers and we're talking about like bank training programs and it's good money CD rates. Come see me. Don't tell Laura I did that. She'll get mad at me. Pause the podcast. No, I know this all sounds silly, but here's what I know. We are all part of this thing, right? This soup, right? Whatever it is, it's dark matter, dark energy, DNA, swirling galaxies. It's wild, right? We're all part of it, and we're all beans in this soup. Tony, I think you're a kernel of corn, maybe, in the soup. No, but we're all part of this, and I think we all have a fundamental choice to make. Is the master kind or is the master cruel? We all pray with me. God, oh man, we just love you. There's no good or pretty enough words to express the love and appreciation we have for you and the opportunities you give us, the gifts you give us, the environment that you put us in. And even then, as deeply and as much as it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, I can't even begin to imagine the way you love us, the way you hurt for us, the way you want for us the best. God, it's tough. I mean, we, from our perspective, we're swimming around and things get hard. Things seem unkind, things go wrong, and it can start to feel like the deck is stacked against us. It can start to feel like you're not there. It can start to feel like a lot of those things, and remind me every single day that you are kind, that you are in this for me, you are with me. It's a fundamental choice I need to make, God, and I pray that you will give me the strength and the power to make that choice. Lord, thank you once again for the people here. Thank you for this sacred moment. May you walk with us out these doors and help us see all the beauty that's around us. God, we love you. We praise you. And we lift all these things up in your Son's name. We call him Jesus.